Hello everybody and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as J.R.R, and you're watching an instructional video on some of the mechanics of Third Age Total War that will hopefully make your experiences in the game, in your battles and in your campaigns, a little more sensible, in that you'll understand a little bit more what's going on. And I'm doing this at the request of one of the viewers, and usually when someone has a question like this, there are also other people that are having similar problems. So I think it actually does warrant its own video and possibly its own little series in the future. And I'll do some more discussion of mechanics of Third Age, because it's a game that I'm pretty familiar with. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I don't know yet, and I've got like 1,200 hours logged on it since I bought it a couple of years ago. But it's yeah, it's a really complicated game, and there's a lot of kind of really cool stuff that you might not know, and maybe you'll learn in this video. So one of the first things we're going to talk about is hard counters and soft counters, and just some of the interactions between units in terms of mechanics that you don't see present on the in the battles or anywhere else really, that exists pretty much entirely inside of the EDU files. And then we're going to talk about some little tips and tricks for your campaigns that maybe you know, maybe you don't, that will hopefully make your lives a little easier. Now, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start this here. As you can see, we've got two spearmen units facing off against each other. And I like spearmen, actually, especially the elven spearmen, because they have a lot of staying power and they're very versatile. A few notes on spearmen is that they have a much higher unit mass than other units, like, say, well, in the case of Third Age, dwarves tend to have a very high mass in general, but spearmen also have a high mass, which prevents them rather from being pushed around and tossed into the air unless a unit with a lot of mass collides into them, like, say, a troll or an elephant, Mumakil in the case of Third Age. And unit mass is basically just the force with which another unit can collide into another. And this prevents spearmen from being pushed around, so it makes them very reliable as a battle line. So when you get into like big blobs with units in, say, in like siege battles, for instance, spearmen are going to get pushed around a lot less than, say, a swordsman unit or something like that. And also, unit mass is going to vary from unit to unit. It's going to depend on certain things like how that unit is balanced. So if that unit is a unit that uses heavy armor, presumably someone that is balancing it is going to give this unit a higher mass, so it can't be pushed around as easily as a unit in, say, leather. Now, another important note here about spearmen is that they suffer a penalty against non-spear units, sword units specifically. They are weaker against, and that makes sword units I would say a soft counter, because they don't absolutely devastate spearmen, but they do much better against spearmen than, say, another spear unit here. I mean, looking at the casualties, these units differ in my version of MOS by a single point of defense and attack. And yeah, you can see it's very slow, leisurely paced, and it's pretty even. Against a sword unit, I believe that spearmen actually lose like something like 2 or 3 attack depending on the unit, that's pretty significant, especially against heavier units that are very well armored, like, say, I believe trolls are actually considered heavy infantry and probably sword units, but I'm not too sure about that. It's going to depend, as I said, on the unit and the person balancing them. But because of this, swordsman units are much more effective against spearman units. So yeah, it's still very equal here. These guys will probably wipe each other out, and it's going to take them a while to do so, because spearmen tend to have, in just generally across Total War games, I can't speak for all of the mods, but spearmen generally tend to have more armor, which gives them more staying power. So, and you can understand why that is, because yeah, it's their use on the field is to tie up enemies, basically. So the next demonstration is going to pit a sword unit against a spear unit, so I will see you guys over there. And here we are. This time around for you, we have a unit of Mirkwood Sword Guard, who have less men per unit than spearmen, but much higher attack, and they are also, as their name would suggest, a sword unit. So we're going to have our two units here charge at each other, and we're going to observe the effects of these two units getting engaged in close combat. Now, you'll notice here that they are overlapping us a little bit. We're going to talk about the importance of formations and envelopments in another battle, but for now, bear in mind that this is going to affect the rate at which our spearmen take casualties, but not by all that significant of an amount. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to speed it up here just a little bit. And as you can see, casualties are accruing much more quickly than with other units, with the spearmen versus spearmen contest. And it doesn't look like it's happening all that quickly now. That's just because these are two heavily armored units. But let's take a look here. They haven't taken a single casualty in return to the 5 that we've already taken. So they're cutting us up pretty bad. Yeah, we're getting stitched up pretty bad here. And it's only going to get worse. I mean, here, I'll speed it up and you can just watch the casualties fall here. And this is not usually something that happens to Eldar spearmen very often. Usually they can give as good as they get because of their stats, but I think we might have... No, we've killed 1 in return for like the 15 or something that they've killed of ours. So as you can see, they are doing much better and killing many more units much more quickly than a spearman unit would. And that is because of the penalty that the Eldar Ringway spearmen receive from fighting a sword unit simply because they are spearman units. So there you are. That's a quick demonstration of this, and I'm going to show you one more unit demonstration because it responds specifically to a problem that the viewer who requested this video was having with Momokill. So I will see you guys on the battlefield. Alright, so this time we're going to talk about counters to elephants, because anyone who's played a campaign against J.R.R. knows just how powerful elephants, or Momokill specifically, can be. And yeah, a good example of this is in the latest Mordor campaign video, where I use basically a single unit of Momokill to wipe out an entire Gondor army. They are very powerful. But luckily, Gondor itself does have access to a very good, hard counter to Momokill. And you're going to see exactly why that is in just a moment here. Just watch what happens. This is just brutal. Yeah. You ever seen a Momokill die that quickly? Neither have I. The only unit that can do this is a javelin unit. If they would get their shit together and start throwing their friggin' javelins, you'd see them be much more effective here. Come on. Anytime, you morons. There we go. Yeah, unfortunately the AI here is being a little retarded and not throwing javelins at a rate that is acceptable. They're just sitting here dying. But look at that, just another 2 Momokill went down. This is 1 unit of Momokill, and this is or 1 unit of javelin men here. And look at that. The battle has been won. They have made these guys run amok and go crazy. And all it cost us was most of the unit. Now usually that's not going to happen. Usually you're going to be able to either tie up the Momokill with like a sort of meat shield unit like Gondor Militia or something like that, and you're going to be able to destroy them. And also the AI was just being weird and having formation issues, so there's that as well. But yeah, that's a quick demonstration of the power of Javelin Men versus Momokill. Alright, so we're moving on to some campaign tips and tricks that will hopefully help make your campaigns a little more smooth. Now we're going to talk a little bit about infrastructure here, and this is just a high elf campaign that I've been playing on my own. But you'll notice here that I have a lot of infrastructure buildings. I've got forest paths, I've got farms, and I've got various kind of trade and administrative buildings, and these are really important for keeping your economy going. I mean, I'm playing as the High Elves. They have some of the most expensive units in the game. I mean, this is just a basic unit of archers here that costs almost 200. In upkeep, and then their sword quendi costs 300. So, and that's just their militia units. So they're very expensive. But as you can see, I'm making a lot of cash. How am I managing to do this? And as I said, this is going to depend from faction to. This is going to vary from faction to faction. High Elf specifically, because I know there's a lot of people out there that love the Elven factions, and they're amazing factions to play and have a lot of great lore. So what you need to be cognizant of is where your capital is. And this applies to more than just the High Elves, actually, now that I think about it. Now, as you can see here, this is my capital, Mythlond here. And I have done that because, as you can see, over here, Imladris is very far away from all of my other settlements. And when your capital is far away from another settlement, that settlement suffers a lot of penalties in terms of corruption, which directly affects how much money that settlement can make for you. So the closer your capital is, the less corruption that you have. So as you expand your armies across the map, you need to find sort of a central position which you can place your capital at in order to reduce corruption the maximum amount that is possible. So in the case of the High Elves, I've moved mine over here and created what's a nice little bread basket. I mean, these would be making like half of what they are making right now if I hadn't moved my capital over here. And then it puts it close to all of these other territories that I've taken. So that's a consideration as well. And on the topic of infrastructure, what you really want to do is you want to get roads, first of all. Any student of history knows that roads are extremely important. They facilitate the exchange of goods, as you can see here, the movement of armies, and the exchange of ideas. So this is all very important for your economy. Trade especially. If you can get trade agreements with your neighbors, as I can here. I have a trade agreement with the dwarves, and I have a trade agreement with Eriador. And I have territories that border both of these guys. So I can make a lot of money in trade, which is probably where a lot of this is coming from. As you can see, these little carriages here represents exactly how much trade you're getting on a road. And as you upgrade these roads, the amount of income that you get from trade is going to increase. And one other thing I would like to talk about here, just before we cut the episode off here, because I think this could actually be a useful series in terms of helping players that are maybe just coming into Third Age and Medieval for the first time, or even for veteran players. Like I said, I've got 1,200 hours on this game, and I'm still discovering stuff. So what we're going to do here is we're going to build this leather tanner, because we can, and I'm going to show you a nice little tip for micromanaging your cities and helping your generals get better economic traits. That's going to help you in the long run. So here we are back at Harlon. As you can see here, this settlement is about to be built. Now, this is why I keep at least one unit inside of all of my cities, is so that I can do this trick without the city going crazy and rebelling against me. Is I turn my taxes up to high, and I only do this for towns that have a building that's about to be created. Otherwise, I keep them on low, and that's because population growth also directly affects how much money you're going to be making, and it also allows you to tech up faster and earlier. And when the taxes are low, obviously your population growth is going to increase, and eventually you're going to be able to crank these up once you've reached kind of your max population, and it's going to help you in your war efforts in the late game. But this little stat right here, respect, I don't know if he quite has enough yet. He does. As you can see here, once they get to about, what is that, 2, 4, 6, 7 respect, they get a slight bonus for population, and it's not much. You can increase it on your own, just sort of in the game files. I usually do, but I like the challenge that it presents to the High Elves of having a low and slow population growth. But once you get there, you get this small population bonus, which is going to help increase your overall funds in your campaign. But since this city is about to create a building, we're going to go ahead and we're going to crank the taxes up to very high, and this helps your governors get a lot of really nice traits. So I don't know if he has any yet. I've been doing it for the farms, and because it's on higher taxes, I have a much higher chance of getting good farm-related traits when I create a farm here with very high taxes enabled. Let's go take a look at Kirdan, because I believe he also has some similar traits. So he's got a reasonable ruler, and just having it up for one turn isn't going to start to give you like horrible fascist, tyrannical bastard ruler traits or something like that. But you're going to get stuff like Thorough Taxman, which 20% tax income. You can imagine that once your population gets up into the tens of thousands, that's going to be a really big deal. What else we have here? Agriculturalist, budding bureaucrat is also something that you're going to see. Traits you're going to see your generals develop when you start using this trick. And as you can see, it increases trade income, which is great, as well as the order within your settlement. So that is all for this episode. We will probably be talking about formations on the battlefield and maybe some other hard and soft unit counters. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in. I believe Dawn of War is coming up next, the second campaign of the second episode of our Eldar campaign. So I will see you guys there, and as usual, take care, everybody. Bye bye.